I grew up on a hog farm in Iowa, probably about 3 hours away from here. I joined the Navy after 1 year of college on a bet that I couldn't become a Navy SEAL. And then I served in the military for 12 years, most of that time as a SEAL. I got retired, I got medically retired at the end of '09, beginning of 2010 from some injuries that I got in combat and in training. Now, when people first know or first meet me and I tell them, or my wife tells them that I used to be a Navy SEAL, generally speaking, they say, no, you look more like Keith Urban's stunt double. Well, I'm not, I guess, big enough or muscular enough or bearded enough or even tattooed enough. There's some sort of way that a SEAL is supposed to look. It's supposed to be more like this. So I'm sorry to disappoint you if you're expecting bigger biceps, but really being a SEAL is not being superhuman. The reality check is that we are not that way. So my most important point, if you take only one thing away, don't put Navy SEALs on a pedestal. In fact, don't put anyone on a pedestal. The main reason people like this succeed is desire. The desire leads to a willingness, like to do what it takes to be successful. Normally, if you see a person who wins, it's because they wanted it more. The person who either fails or loses, or the team who fails or loses, they just didn't want it enough. I oftentimes I'll tell my kids or I'll tell other young people, when they're asking what they should do, I always say, go find something that you absolutely want and have to do. If you want it enough, you will do what it takes to succeed, if you can imagine. The first time I jumped out of an airplane, which was the third time I got in one, I was scared. I had a pretty sheltered life. We used to take vacations in Omaha. So anyway, my kids are they can't even imagine that. Anyway, I was scared when I did all those things, and I was absolutely afraid on my first combat mission. The key word in there for me is fear, right? You cannot define courage and you cannot define bravery without the word fear. If you're doing something dangerous or daring, or if success is not in doubt, if you're not a little bit afraid, then you're not brave, you're just crazy. And if you're not afraid once in a while, I would say maybe you're not pushing yourself enough. At one point, I had to go brief a superior from another unit, and I handed out the grid coordinates and the name of the guy and where we're going and how we're gonna get there. Basically, hey, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna launch at this time. Hey, we're gonna patrol there, we're gonna surround, we're gonna do the mission, we're gonna come back. And he was kind of well, that's great. What happens if it doesn't go according to plan? Hey, sir, I don't expect it to. It never does. I know where I'm starting. I know the first few moves. I know where I'm going, and I know basically how to get there, but I'm not gonna waste time worried about it not going according to plan, because it never does. And it didn't that night, of course. Otherwise, I wouldn't be telling a story about it. And I think just that teamwork, that team mentality, and that working for each other, I learned how to win, right? And I really, I learned how to lose. Probably had 1 or 2 natural lights, not gonna lie. And I'm sitting there and I stand up and oh! I tell everybody in my dorm room, we had a bunch of guys in there and a couple girls watching this movie, I'm gonna leave college and become a Navy SEAL. The one thing I've mostly learned is that just because you're a Navy SEAL, in spite of what some people say or what some books may say, right? That doesn't mean you know everything. That also doesn't mean that you can do everything. I am no better than my competition. Or in the military, I would say, I am no better than my enemy. That attitude would lead me to want to train and prepare more. It was humility that led to preparation, which led to confidence. And to me, the best way, the single best way to remember the brave men and women who've fallen in war or who've died for our freedoms, for me, best way to do that is just live and try to live a life worthy of their sacrifice.